All right, so if you're a sociology major, I'm willing to bet you've heard one question. A lot. And today, we're not just going to answer it. Oh no, we are going to dive into a career that puts your degree right on the front lines of real, meaningful social change.
And there it is. So, what can you do with a sociology degree? You hear it all the time, right? You're in class learning about social structures, inequality, all this amazing stuff, but you're probably wondering, okay, but how does this work in the real world? Well, what if I told you that all those concepts, they're not just theories, they're the exact toolkit you need for one of the most high-stakes, high-impact jobs you can imagine? That's right. You can become a direct agent of social change. I mean, really hands-on. And one of the most powerful ways to do that? By becoming a probation and parole officer, what we'll call a PPO. Look, this isn't just some job. This is applied sociology, out in the wild. So, let's get into it. We're calling this first part a sociologist on the streets. And honestly, that's the perfect description. This is all about taking those huge ideas you read about in your textbooks, things like social control, deviance, and actually using them to navigate the incredibly complex lives of real people day in and day out. Okay, so what is a probation and parole officer really? At its heart, a PPO is a state agent with two really big and sometimes competing jobs. Think of it like this. On one hand, you've got control. That's the law enforcement part of it, making sure people follow the rules. But on the other hand, you've got care. That's the social worker side, genuinely helping people rebuild their lives. And that constant balancing act, that tension between care and control, that is the job. Now, you've probably heard the words probation and parole thrown around, maybe even used to mean the same thing. But here's the thing, they are fundamentally different, and you really need to get this distinction because each one comes with its own set of unique sociological challenges. So let's break it down. All right, take a look at this. The biggest difference, the one that changes everything, is when the officer steps in. So probation, that's an alternative to going to jail. It's a sentence given by a court. But parole, that happens after someone's been in prison. The whole game changes. Now the focus is on helping someone transition from prison life back into the community. And that is a huge challenge. Parole officers are dealing with the effects of what sociologists call institutionalization, all the deep-seated difficulties that come from living inside a total institution for years. Okay, so what's a day in the life actually look like for a PPO? Well, their entire day is basically a constant negotiation of that core dilemma we keep talking about. That balancing act between care and control, between being a source of support and an agent of enforcement. The duties are, well, they're all over the place. One minute you're assessing a client, talking to them and their family. The next, you're a vital link, connecting them to things like job training or counseling. Then you got to switch gears to enforcement. We're talking home visits, drug tests. And on top of all that, you're going to spend a lot of time on paperwork and even testifying in court. It's a true hybrid role, part social worker, part law enforcement officer. But this is where we hit a really critical and kind of frustrating reality of the job. You could call it the paperwork paradox. And this is a classic sociological tension playing out in real time. You've got the bureaucratic machine demanding endless documentation, clashing right up against the human-centered goal of helping someone. And what we find is that officers often spend the majority of their time on paperwork, which means less time for the face-to-face work that actually helps people change. And that brings us to the emotional reality of this career. Because look, if you're seriously thinking about this, you need the full picture. You need to understand the incredible sense of purpose that draws people to this work, but also the very real stresses that come with it. So let's start with the good stuff. What makes it all worth it? People in this field call it the cool factor. It's that deep, personal satisfaction you get from genuinely helping someone turn their life around. I mean, imagine being that one stable person who helps someone get a job, or find a safe place to live, or even get their kids back. That is an incredibly powerful thing. This is where you actually see social change happening, one person at a time. Okay, let's talk money, because that's always part of the conversation, right? The median annual wage for a PPO back in 2024 was about $64,500. And hey, it's a stable government job, which is a big plus for a lot of people. But money is only part of the story. How does that salary stack up against what the job is actually like day to day?
And this is where things get a little complicated. For a job with so much potential for meaning, the job satisfaction numbers are, well, they're not great. PPOs rate their career happiness at just 2.9 out of 5 stars. To put that in perspective, that lands them in the bottom quarter of all careers. It really shows a huge disconnect between the mission of the job and the reality of doing it.
So why the low rating? What's causing all that stress? Well, it's probably not what you're thinking. It's not so much about physical danger. The top stressors are almost all bureaucratic. Number one, insanely high caseloads. We're talking an average of up to 139 clients for a single officer. Number two is that crushing paperwork we mentioned earlier. And number three is just relentless deadline pressure. It's the system, the organization itself, that creates most of the strain. Okay, I know that sounds tough, but don't let the challenges scare you off. Because here's the kicker. Your sociology education gives you the perfect toolkit to not only survive in this field, but to actually help change it from the inside out. So let's talk about how you get there. This is your superpower. Seriously, your sociology degree gives you such a massive advantage. It teaches you to think critically, to look past a single crime and see the bigger social forces at play. It gives you the cultural competence you absolutely need to work with diverse and often marginalized groups. It sharpens your communication skills for talking to everyone, from clients to judges. And maybe most importantly, it gives you a way to understand the very organizational pressures that make the job hard, which means you're better prepared to handle them. So what can you, as a freshman, do right now to get ready? First, be smart about your classes. Load up on courses in criminology, social inequality, and definitely research methods. This field relies on data. Second, get some real-world experience. Hunt down internships in probation offices or re-entry programs. And third, start networking. Use your school's career center, connect with people on LinkedIn, talk to anyone you can who's already in the field. Start building those connections today. So here's where we land. The job is stressful, no doubt about it. The system is definitely flawed. But if you're a sociology major who really wants to take all that theory and put it into practice, who wants to be an agent of change from the inside, is there any better place to do it? Is there a better real-world laboratory for social change? That ultimately is a question only you can answer.